Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, it is still the watch party. We got a lot happening as usual. I mean, come on, bro. Of course, we got a lot happening. It's the United States of America, and Donald Trump is the president currently. We'll see how long that lasts. Because the theme of today's stream here, for those of you getting here for the first time, the theme of today's stream is the walls continue to close in, the pressure continues to build. More people are understanding just how petulant, childish, violent, bloodthirsty, and fascist this administration is, and it's not looking good for them. The more that they respond to people realizing that, the worse they look. They're burying themselves. It's a slow process. It's frustrating for those of us that saw it from the beginning, but still, it's happening. It's just how it all goes down. Glad you guys are all here. Darlene told me that I could start, so I decided to start. Apologies, Eric the Red. I didn't mean to put you on blast like that the other day. It's all it's playful fun. I feel like you guys talk enough trash about me, like when I mute mics and things like that. But all you guys, as usual, are here. Tasmanian Devil's mom says, JR, where is that intro music? If you need me to put a beat to it, I can do this. Well, I mean, I do have an intro song. I don't know why I stopped playing it. Maybe I'll bring that back too, because I enjoy it. I liked that song. But yeah, all you guys have shown up. Good to see you. A lot happening as usual, as I pointed out. I'm not sure if you guys saw some of the posts. There's a post section on YouTube for the Watch List TYT page. I did peek in there a little bit and let you guys know what our first story would be. So, maybe if you guys want to make sure you're on time, maybe make sure that you were some of the early nerds that jumped in. We're going to start there. I do want to warn you guys, though, as we start with this first story. It was all over the place as of yesterday evening, at least when I first saw it. And it's a protester, former Marine, who's also running for the Senate, was protesting, and it ended somewhat gruesomely. He had a broken bone as they took him out of the chambers. But so I'm going to give you guys that warning, because there's one thing that I'm not good at. I got to tell you, and I thugged my way through it just for you guys, is broken bones. I hate seeing it happen. I've never had one because I'm ultra cautious about that stuff, despite the fact that I was a reckless athlete. I avoided all of it at all costs because I would have lost my mind if it ever happened to me. But back to the guy who actually was being brave. For some reason, you have to be brave now in this country in order to protest. He was in this hearing and he decided to protest. This is how that scene went down once he was confronted and then taken out of there. Again, warning: there's a gruesome bone here.
Israel is the reason for this war. America does not want to fight this war for Israel.
Let's go. Come on, let's go.
America does not want to send its sons and daughters to war for Israel. Your inability to name that shows your exemptness as leaders. This is wrong. And nobody wants to fight for Israel.
A reminder to all our
Commandant, please stand up as a Marine and stand up for America. No one wants to fight for Israel.
Oh my God.
Sir, thank you for your service.
The senator broke his hand. The senator broke his hand.
Help him, please. Help him. He's a Marine. Somebody come help him.
Control your Senate committee.
Look at you guys. You're robots. You won't even look back. Look at you guys. You're like robots.
So at that hearing, they're discussing this war that Donald Trump has walked us into and we're supposed to be paying for more for. That Marine veteran there stood up, protested, got ushered out. They were fighting with him. He was resisting that escort out of the room. And as you saw on the back in there, right before his arm was caught between those two doors, it broke with the help of one Senator Shehy, Republican Senator Shehy from Montana. Let me give you guys that second angle so you can see the man in the navy blue suit jumping at the back side. This is a different angle. This is the point of when the break happened. So warning yet again. But I just want to show you guys the force and also the interference that Shehy took part in as this guy was taken out. So look for the guy coming in with the blue suit. That's Senator Shehy.
Out. No one wants to fight for Israel.
His hand, his hand. Oh, his hand.
Let go of your hand. Let go of the door. Let go of the door.
The senator broke his hand. A sitting U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine.
Sir.
Control your Senate.
Arm stuck in the door. Okay, sir.
A U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine. A U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine. You're a coward. What did you say? Senator? Go fuck yourself. You were a shitty seal. That's why you got kicked out, fat ass.
Everybody sit down, please. Sit down, please. Everybody sit down, please. Everybody sit down, please.
I'm getting out of here.
That's fine. Everybody sit down, please. Is your hand okay? Okay.
No, it's not.
This is disgusting. Disgusting.
Just pull it
This is
out.
disgusting.
I have to look away every time. I hate broken bones. But as you saw, Senator Shehy there in the blue suit, after he snatched and went lower, picked up both of his legs and shoved and went towards the hallway, disregarding the possibility of his arm being stuck in there, which of course turned him in that position that then where it snapped, and everyone saw and heard the sound of it. It took them a few minutes longer just to get his arm out from that door frame that it was still jammed in all the way at the back end of that video, because one door closed, it closed on his arm, and then that's when Shehy jumped in and got to snatching on his body, which, by the way, I feel like when law enforcement is doing anything, any kind of operation, and people come in and interfere, they go to whooping that guy's ass and say, stop interfering, whether or not he's trying to help or not. You're not supposed to be there. There's certain ways that I believe they're supposed to be trained to do this stuff. But Senator Shehy's a badass. He's a veteran himself. So he, of course, ran in there and did all that he could possibly do because he wanted to look badass and go on Sean Hannity's show later and brag about it. It's not working out that way for him. Here's the aftermath out in the hallway after that veteran, Brian McGinnis, was taken out.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Why are you here?
Why are you getting arrested?
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, Palestine will be free.
And what about this war in Iran?
Oh my God.
What more can you do?
His arm.
Okay.
Ah, fuck, my arm is fucking broke,
What are
bro.
you gonna do to him?
Oh
My
my
left arm
gosh.
is broke. I understand. No, fine.
Oh my God. Oh, you guys, come on.
I need you to move.
You need
with
to
me, okay?
stop. Okay.
Brian, stop.
He's fighting for you, not for him.
They broke his arm.
Oh my God.
Oh my
they
God.
broke
It's
his arm.
totally broken.
Come on now.
Oh man.
Please, can you get him some kind of medical attention?
Yes, we are.
Oh my God.
You are straight.
Let go of my arm before you sit down.
I'll step back, please. Please move
Can we
back.
get
Keep
him
this
some
walkway
medical
open.
attention?
The weird thing was when those officers continued to walk him out, they were letting his right arm go free and were still holding on to his left one, which is the one that was broken. So I get it. If you're still trying to walk the guy out and you wouldn't have some kind of control over him, you probably grab the arm that isn't broken, because I get the feeling you can't really use that left arm to do any fighting or anything that you could potentially be afraid of. So as you can imagine, this whole thing blew up. I'm sure you guys heard about it. If you did, that's why it blew up. So in response, Tim Shehy, that senator who took part in this, responded over on X from this whole fallout. And he said, Capitol Police, listen to this description. Capitol Police are attempting to remove an unhinged protester from an armed services hearing. He was fighting back. I decided to help out and de-escalate the situation. This gentleman came to the Capitol looking for a confrontation, and he got one. I hope he gets the help he needs without causing further violence. Since he's talking about people coming to the Capitol looking for confrontations, I get the feeling that Senator Shehy didn't have much problem with all those thousands of people, Donald Trump foot soldiers, showing up at the Capitol looking for confrontation. In fact, chanting about how they're going to kill lawmakers, and the vice president. I'm sure he had no issue with that confrontation and that group of people looking for one. But that was actually someone that was protesting. And in this United States of fascist America, protesting is looking for a confrontation because you have to protect the fragile ego and mindset of the president, that fascist in the White House. I did find Brian McGinnis, that veteran that was assaulted there by Senator Shehy, before he went into that Armed Services Committee hearing, before he protested, talking about what he's doing there. Here he is outside.
Hey guys, I'm here in DC trying to speak out against the Senate and ask them why they're going to send our men and women to harm's way when our elected officials said that it would be no war. Anybody who feels disillusioned and betrayed by our government, you're not alone. Join us in demanding accountability for this betrayal. Free Palestine, free America. Let's go.
You wonder why Senator Shehy decided to assault his fellow veteran there and then call him unhinged. The disrespect for our veterans from our elected officials is off the charts. The same elected officials that always like to talk about support the troops under any circumstances. It's we're seeing it in the way they're treating just the folks that have already been killed in Donald Trump's operation, his war into Iran. But still, Brian McGinnis is that veteran that was then taken out. And he did have some things. I did find him also over on X, and he had some things to say about the situation. Actually, this first post is from Team McGinnis. As I pointed out, he's running for Senate in North Carolina, I believe. I'll double check that. But this is what was said from his page. On behalf of Brian's family, we want to express our deepest gratitude for the overwhelming outpouring of support, messages, and contributions over the past 24 hours. At this time, our priority is Brian's well-being. We're taking a necessary step back from the public eye to allow him to focus fully on his recovery in private. While he looks forward to engaging with all of you very soon, his health and his family remain the current priorities. Again, they thanked everyone, and please keep Brian and his family in your prayers, they say. But this next post from him was actually, I think, directly from him. Because again, he's running, but as a Green Party candidate. He says, and for the record, I've been running long before this. And yes, even after breaking my arm, standing up for what I believe in, it's only made me more determined. Anger is real, and so is resolve. I just want to at least get his thoughts out, at least the ones that I could find, because I know a lot of times I do it. Many people focus on the negative, the devastating aspects of what it is they were doing from this, overreaching fascist administration and all their foot soldiers that they have in place as well. But sometimes we got to give voices back to the people who are standing up, doing the things that me and many others always ask folks to do. When are we going to do something about it? And this is doing something about it. This is making it very plain and clear where this government, this fascist government, stands versus the people of this country and how quickly they've gotten there. But let me take a little trip back down memory lane, just to point out who it is that Senator Shehy is. This is a moment from Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing to become the Secretary of War. At the time, apparently, was still the Secretary of Defense. And Senator Shehy asked him a line of questioning. God, look at these meatheads.
Pete, I'm actually going to ask you questions because I want to hear your answer. How many genders are there? Tough one.
Senator, there are 2 genders.
I know that well. I'm a Shehy, so I'm on board. What is the diameter of the rifle round fired out of an M4 A1 rifle?
That's a 5.56.
How many push-ups can you do?
I did 5 sets of 47 this morning.
What do you think are most important strategic bases in the Pacific?
In the Pacific, Guam is pretty strategically significant.
How many rounds of 5.56 can you fit into the magazine of an M4 rifle?
Depends on the magazine, but standard issue is 30, Senator.
I'm a Shehy. I know about that. So a couple of meatheads having their back and forth about guns and about push-ups, because that's what makes Pete Hegseth feel like a real man. Having another man confirm his manliness. So it sounds a little bit like they only look for the approval of other men. the way that they like to complain about these lefty libs and how they, support, folks who aren't just attracted to women. But apparently, Senator Shehy and Pete Hegseth, they have a little love affair. I mean, it's totally fine. I'm just pointing these things out. But even more recently, again, that was when Pete Hegseth was getting confirmed. This is Senator Shehy talking about this Iran war that his president started. You won't be surprised to hear that this veteran is all on board for more people going to die, even though he made it back.
Well, we got to finish the job, Will. And the bottom line is nobody started a new war here. The president has certainly not started a new war. He's trying to end a war that's been going on for 47 years. And as you said earlier, he's been consistent on this stance for 15 years. And the Iranians have been killing, murdering, and maiming Americans and citizens all over the world through their proxy groups and their direct IRGC operational groups for decades. And it's about time, instead of sending them pallets of cash like Obama and Biden and Kamala did and enabling this regime to kill more people, we take their death to America chant and we send them death from America. It's exactly what we're doing. This is the only way to even come close to stabilizing the Middle East. And as you pointed out earlier in your segment, Will, this is also critical to weaken Russia and China, who depend on rogue states like Venezuela and Iran to launder their money and provide them attack dog services to cover the globe.
Sure. So Shehy, of course, is in support of Donald Trump's war that apparently he didn't start a war, he's ending wars. How is it? I feel like there's this weird thing because we also had Mark Wayne Mullen saying that this isn't a war. We had Donald Trump saying it is a war. We had Pete Hegseth, his best friend, saying that it is a war. But now it's a war that has been going on for 47 years. It's the odd thing is I feel like Donald Trump didn't, run and campaign on ending a war that was going on for 47 years. Or I'm sorry, starting another war and claiming that he's ending a war that was going on for 47 years. It doesn't really matter. They just say things at whatever moment they need to say it. And I feel like one of the reasons that Tim Shehy was saying those things on Fox News, the comfortable surroundings there, is because according to this AIPAC tracker, which of course goes after any politician, and how much kinds of donations they've been receiving from this pro-Israel lobby and other mega donors in support of the same thing. Tim Shehy, oddly, it's crazy enough, is in support of this Iran war and has received, again, according to AIPAC tracker, over $641,000 of donations from the folks who then tell him what to do. And then, he's a badass. So he snatches fellow veterans up, breaks their arm, and then goes around and says, did I do well? Did I do well? Asking for some support. And if you think I'm exaggerating about how he bows his head and asks his, the folks who own him whether or not he's done well, here he is. As soon as he got into office, bro, it's like shameless. This is Tim Shehy.
I'm Tim Shehy. I'm a recently elected U.S. Senator from the state of Montana. And I'm here as my first act as elected senator to show our allies in Israel and the broader allies throughout the Middle East that America still has a commitment to this region. And there's no question that America stands with Israel, stands with the men and women of Israel. And of course, we'll do everything we can to make sure the IDF and the men and women of the IDF have the best gear, intelligence, technology, and support they have to get this done. And of course,
Tim Shehy said it. I didn't say it. Some radical leftist lib didn't say it. Tim Shehy said, I just was elected United States Senator from Montana, and my first act as U.S. Senator is to go and visit in Israel and let everyone there know they've got my support, they've got undying support from me. He didn't go to the people of Montana as his very first act. In his words, very first act as senator representing the state in the United States of America called Montana. Instead, he went to Israel and said, you guys have my primary support. I'll do anything for you. Maybe it was the over $641,000 that he received from the folks who said, here, do everything we want you to do. But as I pointed out before, it gets deeper. This is crazy. Senator Tim Shehy has a bit of a background, and his background is based in lies. Apparently, he can't really keep them straight about this injury that he received and something that happened at a national park. Let's go to this really fast. This is reported from NBC News from a couple years ago. Montana's Republican Senate candidate Tim Shehy, when he was still a candidate, struggled in a new interview to give a clear explanation about the circumstances surrounding a 2015 incident in a national park that led to his treatment for a gunshot wound and a receipt of a fine. This was happening during his campaign, and he was disgruntled about the fact that people were exposing this weird story that still doesn't add up to this day. More details. The questions stem from differing accounts that Shehy has given about a bullet that's lodged in his right arm. All accounts agree that, as first reported by the Washington Post in the spring, I believe it was 2020. I'm not sure. I'm not going to give the year. But all accounts agree that, as first reported by the Washington Post in that spring, Shehy went to the hospital after his gun went off in Glacier National Park in 2015. The details here is firing a weapon. That's an illegal thing to do in a national park. And Tim Sheehy's weapon was fired. And when that happened, Shehy was approached by a park ranger that day who was responding to a call of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The ranger wrote that in a citation at the time and has since said that publicly. The ranger said that Shehy told him he had accidentally shot himself in the arm, and Shehy then went to the hospital for treatment. Shehy now says, after that whole thing happened, when he told a park ranger this, he now says that he was never hit by gunfire on that day in 2015 off in Afghanistan. Instead, he says he was injured during a fall on the hike. I'm sorry. Let me start over that part because this is very confusing. This guy's story's all over the place. Shehy now says he was never hit by gunfire on that day in 2015. Instead, he says he was injured during a fall on the hike and sought treatment because of a bullet already in his arm that he received in Afghanistan during his time serving as a Navy SEAL. And that's a story that he told on the campaign trail to try and look tough. I was injured in war. I'm a tough guy. I claim two genders. But the problem with that is after he dismissed what that park ranger, the conversations that he had with that park ranger about a gunshot going off, that park ranger responded to because there was reports of a gunshot going off. And he also, had a gun, which also, by the way, was the reason why he was cited for having that gun. Problem is that that park ranger got to talking. This here right now talking about is Sally Mock. She's the host of Montana Public Radio, and she revealed this.
The story about the Glacier Park shooting is something that's been out there for several weeks. What's new is the park ranger has come forward and identified himself. His name is Kim Peach, and he's spoken to the Washington Post and the New York Times and has come right out and said flat out he thinks that Shehy is lying about being wounded in Afghanistan with this gunshot and this bullet in his arm, and that he's convinced that Shehy accidentally shot himself in Glacier Park. And that's the new thing, is that he has really come forward and been very adamant that he thinks Shehy is not telling the truth. The story.
This is why this is important. And this is why when someone's running for office, and when at the time this story was starting to blow up, it's important to understand where their morals are, understand where their principles are, to understand if they're blatant liars and if they're willing to not be honorable enough to tell the truth about what it is that they were doing to avoid accountability because he's a coward. And we're seeing currently, as he's attacking fellow veterans, that, he is a coward. And the point then is to try and avoid allowing someone that is a coward, that lies a lot, and that's willing to, hide their hands in the middle of something like this, to not have any positions of power, because then they'll abuse it. It's weird. But again, this Glacier Park ranger, he was talking, and he had to remain anonymous because, he was going up against these guys. This is what he said.
I thought that would be the end of it. That he would say, "Oh, yeah, sorry, I did get that bullet in Glacier Park. And I apologize for saying it was a war wound." And he didn't do that.
He didn't do that. He was expecting this guy to tell the truth, and he was surprised that he didn't do it. That's Senator Shehy. I want to play this last little bit here from him, because again, at the time, right before he was in his election, what he felt was he was being railroaded for this story that he, I guess, felt would never come back up as he's running for office, and about the potential dishonest story that he told about Afghanistan, about the fall in this Glacier Park, about his gun going off. I'm not sure if he ever really revealed and made it clear why this park ranger responded to gunfire going off illegally in his national park. It doesn't really match up, but he did go on with Megyn Kelly, and he was hoping for some, comfortable surroundings to tell his story and try and deflect.
They are alleging that you lied about being shot. So what's the truth?
Yeah, well, I mean, their entire campaign against me has been based on character assassination. I mean, that's all it's been since the beginning. Insurgency is messy. And, you know, one of the most challenging parts we had as SEAL teams over my several deployments was we would have Afghan forces embedded with us. And that means you're fighting not always alongside just a bunch of highly trained Navy SEALs. Much of the time, you are outnumbered by your own friendly partner force, sometimes 10 to 1, sometimes 20 to 1. You'll have hundreds of Afghans that you're responsible for training and then putting into combat. And we call those green on blue incidents, which actually were very, very common, where you'd have Afghans who either intentionally or unintentionally would end up shooting friendly forces. You know, sometimes they just put their weapons on full auto and start, you know, shooting whatever direction they felt like. So unless those injuries are life-threatening, of course, you know, if you've lost a limb like some of our teammates had, or there's a severe injury, you're gonna deal with that because that person has to be cared for. But otherwise, you just keep on moving. So it's unfortunate they've decided to make this a focal point because it's a distraction. But that's what their entire campaign is about. It's about distractions because they can't focus on the issues that John Tester's a loyal Chuck Schumer vote every single time.
It's ironic to use the word distraction because the question that Megyn Kelly asked him was, what's the truth on this whole shooting? Because they're saying that you shot your ass in the park illegally and you're trying to avoid accountability for that. Instead, he launches in this whole story about how, you know, they have certain folks when they're in war zones that they were training and sometimes they go wild and shoot people, which is probably true. But then once you get to shooting folks, was that what happened to you, though? Is that what's happened to you? That's the question that needs to be asked.
So just to be clear, did you shoot yourself in the arm?
No, that was never the allegation. The point is, you know, it was a friendly fire ricochet downrange that wasn't reported at the time. And after having,
but they're saying, just so I'm clear, that they're saying, and I don't want to harp on this, I just want to give you the chance to explain yourself because this is their closing message. It's all about this incident. So if voters are confused, you're going to explain it to them. They're saying that you were in a park, Glacier Park, that you dropped your weapon, that it went off inadvertently and it shot you in the arm, and that there's a park ranger saying she spoke to you about that. It looks like you spoke to the Washington Post and you said that you lied when you told the park ranger about this. So which is it? Like, did you shoot yourself in the arm inadvertently in Glacier Park?
No, we've discussed this at length repeatedly with every media outlet for the last year. It's been beat to death. The point was, at the time, I was injured and went to the hospital. They required a police report because any gunshot wound requires a police report of any kind. And they said, we have to file this. We have to report this to law enforcement. And still having active team members, you know, in the service who were involved in it at that time, I simply said, well, this is an old wound. They said, no, we have to report this as a gunshot wound, you know, to law enforcement. So, yeah, I said, well, okay, fine. It was an accident. You know, even the Sportsman's Group, sports shooting foundations have even said it's literally impossible to have that happen. You know, it wouldn't work. And a weapon of that size that had happened.
Did you have a wound,
no.
Tim, in the park?
No. Yes, I fell and injured my arm when we were hiking. So that's why I went, because, you know, I could feel the bullet get dislodged when I fell on the arm. You could feel the bullet get dislodged.
None of this makes any sense. You know, listen, none of this makes any sense. Again, this is from a couple years ago, right before he was elected to the Senate. She asked him again because she's like, wait, I'm trying to help you out here, Tim, but you're a fucking idiot. Wait, did you shoot yourself in the arm at Glacier Park? He went back to talking about Afghanistan, but then how he went to the hospital after he fell on his arm and it dislodged the bullet. So therefore, hospital, nurses and doctors, potentially personnel, came in and said, wait a second, that's a gunshot wound. But somehow those doctors or nurses didn't know the difference between an old gunshot wound where a bullet is lodged and it's been dislodged versus a fresh gunshot wound from what this park ranger and everyone else, as he then said, the hospital said they had to say it was a gunshot wound, even though he actually fell. Why would a hospital tell you that it's a gunshot wound when you just told them you fell and dislodged an old bullet that was lodged in your arm? God, they're not even good at lying. I don't think he was ready for Megyn Kelly to ask him questions because she thought he wasn't lying. She's like, wait a second, what is it? Well, I thought you were telling me the truth because you're a Republican, right? I think she picked up on it and she's like, oh, I got to help you out because you're an idiot. I got to help you out in this lie. So she tried one more time, but then picked up on it and she helped him out.
And then
Are there
as a
medical
result, they have
records
to
where
file
the
a
where the
report to
ER can say we did not treat a gunshot wound?
Well, there isn't. I mean, that's the point. You go in, you check on it, and you leave. There's not an extensive medical record for any of this stuff. And unfortunately, that's the crux of this, is there's just not a whole lot to talk about. They decided to take this one report from a park ranger that I gave him that report. I stood in the parking lot and said, hey, this is what happened, in 5 minutes, we go on our way. And they decided to make that, the focal point of all
So
this.
confusing. This park ranger doesn't seem to be a Republican. Kim Peach is her name. She once mocked former President Donald Trump.
It's a guy.
I guess it's a him. Okay, his name is Kim. He once mocked Donald Trump. So yeah, I understand.
Now she gets it. Oh, Tim, I get it. This park ranger doesn't like Donald Trump. Therefore, we can go ahead and assassinate his character and completely disregard the story that he told that makes sense versus yours that doesn't make any sense, which Megyn Kelly just realized doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure if you guys came into this late, but Tim Shehy is the guy who attacked this veteran, I think he's Marine veteran, Brian McGinnis, who was protesting this war in Iran that the vast majority of the rest of this country is protesting. And he came in, snatched his legs up, broke his arm, and he's a piece of shit. I just wanted to give you guys the full extent of how much of a piece of shit Tim Shehy is. That's who that guy is. Talk about a dishonorable person. Man, it's chocked full. It's like the worst person you can be is who they want in this MAGA party, because it's led by probably a person even worse than them. Someone they can live up to be more like every day. Tim Sheehy's on his way to getting a weird, thin-ass blonde comb over, and farting all the time in front of people. I mean, it's his king. Anyways, that's the end of that story. I kept digging. It was weird. Like, I started with the whole thing with the arm break, and I was like, wait, Tim Shehy. I remember something about Tim Shehy. Then I dug, and we remembered more about Tim Shehy. Before I move on to the next story, though, here, I'm going to go like this stream. I hope you guys did that already. If you didn't, I know I just did it late. You can do it late, too. I appreciate it. Also, share this stream, subscribe if you haven't done that yet. And also make sure you come back every day. We do this every day at noon Eastern. We do this watch party stream. Sometimes we have fun. And when I say sometimes, I mean like most times, even though we talk about some of the most devastating, depressing piece of trash people ever. Speaking of which, one of those folks isn't doing too well. I guess this is the positive nature of today's stream. Kristi Noem, I think you guys already heard, she went and had a testimony in front of Congress, and they asked her a lot of questions, man. One of the questions I spoke yesterday about Tom Tillis, one of the folks that was asking her questions, though, was Senator John Kennedy, Foghorn Leghorn. I feel like finally he's asking the right questions, because he's beginning to think, nobody likes Kristi Noem. This is starting to look bad. This is the line of questioning that has her deep in hot water.
You have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently.
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America the right way. That has been extremely effective.
Ask you to run these advertisements, is that right?
We had that conversation, yes, before I was put in this position and sworn in and confirmed, and since then as well.
Kristi Noem feels those walls getting real close, bro, especially since you have someone like Senator John Kennedy asking her questions about this hundreds of millions of dollars worth of an ad campaign to push Donald Trump's mass deportation system that he says everyone wanted. And then even the folks who thought they wanted it are realizing that, I didn't know you were going to take my family away. It's crazy. This is that ad in question, before I get to more of the line of questioning that put her in deep, deep hot water. You guys remember this ad?
Why do I love these wide open spaces? They remind me of why our forefathers came here, not just for its beauty, but for the freedom only America provides. I'm Kristi Noem. From the cowboys who tamed the West, to the titans who built our cities, to the dreamers who chased the impossible, America has always rewarded vision and grit. Our greatness calls people to us for a chance to prosper, to live how they choose, to become part of something special. Anyone who searches for freedom can always find a home here, but that freedom's a precious thing, and we defend it vigorously. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you. Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American citizens, there will be consequences. But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies. From President Trump and me, welcome home.
Kristi Noem, as we already know, loves to play dress up. That time she was dressing up as a cowboy, riding around and talking about how they're going after the worst of the worst. As a matter of fact, if you do things the right way, you're welcome back in the country. That is, unless you're at a hearing for your immigration status as required by law, and then they, arrest you violently there too. It's almost like she was lying or something. The good news is we're beginning to see more and more about how much she lies. And oddly, it was still Senator John Kennedy who cornered her ass. Man, I feel like he kind of knew where this was going, and he decided to go ahead and nail her.
Did you bid out those service contracts?
Yes, they did. They went out to a competitive bid, and career officials at the department chose who would do those advertising commercials.
And the people that you ended up picking were people who had formerly done your political work back in South Dakota. Is that right?
No, that's not correct, sir.
I think it is.
No, it's not, sir. The individuals who, I believe the careers who they chose were two different media firms. There's been conversation about their subcontractors, but we have no legal authority to look into subcontractors on work like that.
And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time. Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president
worked
know
with
you were going to do
OMB.
this?
Yes.
He did?
Yes.
Okay.
Whoa. The fact that she said the president, Donald Trump, knew that she was, laundering money and sending it over to her own companies and her own buddies' companies is a bad look. And you know what? Also on top of that, when a loyal MAGA Republican like John Kennedy there gets to asking you questions that, these radical leftists, these folks with Trump derangement syndrome have been asking and exposing about these people for years, when they start asking those same questions that expose this corruption, this money laundering, this theft of our dollars, it's really hard for people like her to then say, how dare you just hate Donald Trump, because it doesn't make any sense anymore. Republicans who are finding themselves under the gun of whether or not they're going to get their asses whooped in midterm elections if Donald Trump even allows that, which I don't think he will. Once they start asking questions, the walls start to close in further. There's no more wiggle room for these really bad lies about how anybody questions their obvious corruption actually being anti-American. So once he heard that she said Donald Trump was all on board for this, he was like, wait a second. I need to defend my president. You're now implicating yourself and him? Watch how he does that.
I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president
worked
know
with
you were going to do
OMB.
this?
Yes.
He did?
Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
Well, they were
overwhelmingly.
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. I'm asking you.
That's where John Kennedy's issues come in. You're putting the president in a terribly awful spot. Now we have to actually consider the president being just as corrupt as you are. We have to consider that everybody that surrounds this 34-time felon in the White House is just as corrupt and criminal as he is. Or we can't protect him as much anymore if the people who work for him keep saying, yo, all that corruption that now even some Republicans are beginning to recognize, you can't just throw it off and say that it's a witch hunt. It sucks. It actually sucks. And once it sucks, Donald Trump gets to thinking for the first time. So Trump now privately is asking Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill whether he should fire Kristi Noem after bruising congressional hearings. Multiple GOP figures who spoke with the president said this. He's asking around town. He goes, wait a second. Kristi Noem, she can screw up everyone else's life. She can lie. She can steal money. She can, buy new jets and then fire people for not flying the way that she wants them to fly. But once she starts implicating me, we got to think about firing. Trump was allegedly angered, in particular, by her exchange that we just saw with John Kennedy, who pressed her on whether or not the president had personally approved that $220 million advertising effort that prominently featured her on horses and shit. Kennedy repeatedly asked whether Trump had personally approved of that campaign, and she said, hell yes, because she's hiding behind Donald Trump. The other thing is if it was just Representative Joe Neguse that asked her all these questions like he did, Donald Trump would have been okay with it. But since it was John Kennedy, he doesn't appear to be okay with it. It may be even more incriminating the way that Joe Neguse went after her ass. Like it was really bad. Watch her squirm again.
Madam Secretary, I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified 4 companies. 4 of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States, you identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll tell you about it.
According to
Madam
law,
Secretary,
it
the
was done by career
address is
officials.
registered to a political
It was
operative.
dollars that were spent
Madam Secretary, the company,
inform
and then I'll give you an
people that
opportunity to
the
respond. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out.
Well, damn. You can't answer the questions. You can't start accusing other folks of having Trump derangement syndrome, because Pam Bondi used that excuse up as well as the doll. She used that excuse up, so you can't go back to that. That didn't fly very well. Instead, she gets cornered on this. Look at this extreme corruption. Let's go back to what I'm always talking about. We knew they were corrupt. We knew they were criminals. We knew that they were liars before they ever got these positions of power, before these confirmations even happened after Donald Trump got back into office. This is why, at the time when you realize who liars are, continue to remember that they're liars so that you don't give them positions of power where they'll start stealing your money and then get cornered later, and we've already paid for it. Here's the rest of Representative Joe Neguse nailing her ass.
You want the American people to believe that this is all above board? Yes, that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota. The reason why I ask these questions is that this is taxpayer money. And I presume, I don't know this for a fact, but Senator Tillis noted yesterday the way in which your agency is blocking the Inspector General from 11 different investigations that it is trying to conduct. I don't know if this happens to be one of them. I certainly hope it is, because eventually the facts will become public in this regard.
I feel like that's one of those moments, if you're sitting there, and your armpits maybe start sweating from folks that you thought would never uncover the truth about what it is that you were doing because you were just flying high. Your president said, do whatever you want, bro. I'm not even going to look at it. He probably has no idea what she's doing. He doesn't give a damn. He's like, as long as I get my billions, you get your hundreds of millions, and we all have our big parties at Mar-a-Lago, I don't give a damn. But once, Joe Neguse then tells her, I hope these investigations that Tom Tillis is also upset about, another long-serving Republican is talking about wanting to uncover, I hope this is one of them, because we're going to nail your ass. like the sweat goes from the armpits to the top of your head. And you're like, shit, I think they got me. But wait a second. I forgot. This is a lawless administration. All they can do maybe is just like, lower my positioning, say I have less power, but that doesn't look good for all the bragging that I want to do at our Mar-a-Lago parties. So I'm looking forward to it. The bad news, this is the last part about this. The bad news with exposing Kristi Noem, and then Donald Trump potentially going to fire her ass, which he probably won't now that people are talking about it, because he'll feel that'd be weak. The thing is he's floating someone else to potentially replace her. One name that he's begun floating this week to replace Kristi Noem is Oklahoma's junior U.S. Senator Markwayne Mullin. Boo. We knew it wasn't going to be anybody competent. I mean, this is still Donald Trump. He still needs someone that's stupid, doesn't think for themselves, and is willing to walk around on their knees to kiss his ass as many times as possible. And man, Markwayne Mullin is his guy. I mean, he was already on his knees during January 6th when all of their foot soldiers ran up in the Capitol. He was behind some chairs, kneeling and afraid. So he saw that picture. Trump saw that picture a long time ago. And he's like, you know what? Markwayne Mullin's my guy. He's comfortable on his knees when things go sideways. Little bitch. Anyways, here's the details about what is that Markwayne Mullin said. This is reported. Who knows? Asked in a brief hallway interview in the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday whether he'd heard the president's frustration with Noem's Senate judiciary testimony and whether he was aware he's under consideration as a potential replacement, Markwayne Mullin said, I haven't talked to the president. Also, the Oklahoma Republican insisted that he hasn't spoke to the White House at all this week. He says, I haven't talked to him about the hearing at all. I can't help you there. I'm sorry. And then he ran off. Ran off like it was January 6th, and there was some MAGA guys running behind him. Ran his ass away because he doesn't want to talk about it. Actually, probably believe him on that. Trump's probably just floating names, and Markwayne Mullin came to mind, and Donald Trump just said it out loud. This is just my guess. Markwayne Mullin probably has no idea, but he probably doesn't want to take over as the head of DHS. I'm not sure which one of him between him and Kristi Noem would be more corrupt and more stupid, but it would definitely match up with what Donald Trump wants done, which is, following everything he tells them to do. See, there's a little bit of decent news. Not the Markwayne Mullin part, but at least about the part how Donald Trump is realizing that folks are discovering, outside of all those folks with Trump derangement syndrome, how they're discovering how corrupt everyone is around him, including him. Let me wrap up this hour. Maybe I can squeeze this last story in. I enjoyed putting this whole thing together. I guess that's why I over-prepared. I just might go over. So in case you guys take off in the next 10 minutes, I appreciate you. I love you. Glad that you were here. Come back tomorrow. It'll be Friday. We'll have some drinks and everything. We will roll right into the weekend. It'll be awesome. Tell John I say hey, and it's not going to be, we'll be over pretty soon. But as I said, the theme of today's stream, today's party, is about how no one is buying this bullshit from these Republicans anymore. And they keep going on TV thinking that the way they're talking is something that's going to be believed by even their most staunch supporters. And it's just not happening anymore. I was actually wondering, where has Stephen Miller's egghead ass been for a while? Did they bench him? Did they put his dumb ass on the sideline because he goes on and screams and sounds like a shrieking person all the time? I wonder, but he's back. And man, he stepped right back in it.
I don't think that people understand the Trump doctrine is not isolationism. Maybe you can help set them straight, because I'm not too effective, I guess.
The president has made clear that he believes America's awesome military might should be used to protect and defend America's interests, not to surrender the world to our adversaries, to our enemies, to those who would do us harm, not to surrender the world's resources, lanes of commerce, or capacity to keep our citizens safe. No, America first means America will be the greatest, most unquestioned, unmatched power in the world. And it means we will defend American lives. And yes, we will avenge American blood. Iran has waged war against the American people, this regime, for 47 years. They took our embassy hostage. They bombed our Marines in Beirut. They kidnapped, tortured, and murdered the CIA station chief. They have maimed and wounded and attacked thousands of American troops. All of that American blood spilled by this regime. And President Trump for years has said, we will not allow a regime that sheds the blood of our citizens, that menaces our people, that spreads terrorism around the world, that trains proxy armies. We will not allow that regime to have missiles that can reach our troops, that can reach our bases, that someday in the future could reach the American mainland, and certainly will not allow that regime to have nuclear weapons. But
Stephen Miller saw all of the differing accounts of the reasons why Donald Trump started this war with Iran. And he said, here, look, let me jump in and say it more forcefully with more whining nature to my voice. And maybe people will start listening. Let me cook. And instead, when he went in, he said, America first means America will be the greatest, most unquestioned, unmatched power in the world. Bro, maybe you shouldn't have said that. Because I remember as you guys campaigned, you kept talking about how you're more isolationist. You're not going to keep funding other people's wars. You're not going to keep running off and spending American taxpayer dollars and sending off American troops to die for Donald Trump, or as they always said, every other president that's starting wars. Instead, Stephen Miller thought that he really nailed it. Maybe because Sean Hannity's dumbass said, oh man, you know what? Stephen, I think you nailed it. That's not what some of these conservatives said. Damn. Andrew Day says that's not what America First means. America First means that the U.S. government, which derives its power and legitimacy from the American people, should advance their interests. And they put in parentheses, not Israel's. Oh, that sucks, man. So far, Stephen Miller hasn't landed that plane. So far, it's just been screeching and stuff. Here, Matt Lewis. Turns out, he says, America First can mean whatever you want it to mean. Again, quoting it from that clip from Stephen Miller. Man, I wonder if Stephen Miller was paying attention to what some of these folks were saying about his declaration that he thought he was cooking on. Jake Jackson says they're literally just rebranding neoconservatism into, quote, America First before our very eyes. This is absolutely disgusting to watch happen. Disgusting even. Stephen, they're not buying it. They're not buying it. Stephen. One last post that I'm going to read said, America First, quoting, he said, Stephen Miller says this, Stephen Miller, quote, America First means America will be the greatest, most unquestioned, unmatched power in the world. This is disgusting, he says. This is how they fool psychopaths into sacrificing their blood and treasure for Israel. And oh, damn, he added on the Epstein class. It's almost like, even though they thought they were getting away with the lies about this war, the lies about the Epstein cover-up, the lies about how they're stealing our money, the lies about Doge, the lies about how they've dismantled our education system, our healthcare system. Well, how many more? 2 more weeks before we get that healthcare plan from Donald Trump, by the way. Just asking as an aside. Nobody is buying this bullshit anymore. So, I mean, it might as well be the best time to drop in something like this. Drop Site News put together this little compilation. You know, since Stephen Miller and the rest of these folks keep talking about how somehow Donald Trump is the peace president and he ran apparently somehow on, attacking Iran. This is some reality that I think a lot of Americans are acting like they forgot about.
I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that.
A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for a man who wants to end wars, not start them.
We do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance.
Kamala's campaigning with warmongers like Liz Cheney. How do you think that is? She picks Liz Cheney, whose father virtually destroyed the Middle East. You know, Liz Cheney, she talks big, oh, I want war. She always wants war. Every time I was with her in the White House, we should attack this nation, that nation, nations that people never even heard of, we should attack. She's a big, tough guy. She sits back in Washington, oh, we ought to go and attack Iran, Iraq. We're going to attack everybody. That's why I broke up with her. All she wanted to do is go to war with everybody. These war hawks, they want to draft your kids to die in wars, and they will never fight themselves. You know, we'll stay around the country for 15 years, just bomb the hell out of everybody, make everybody miserable. Nobody knows why we're there, the wars that never end. These endless wars that we've been in, I've gotten us out of so many. We don't want to get into wars. We're tired of fighting. I'm the only president in the last 84 years that didn't start a war. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more wars, no more wars. We will have prosperity and peace. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Remember, I'm the president of peace. They said he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. He's going to start a war. I said, no, no, no. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. I believe that he will attack Iran sometime prior to the election because he thinks that's the only way he can get elected. Isn't it pathetic?
Drop Site News put together one of those compilations that I used to do all the time for the Young Turks, man. Lovely. I mean, just it's pretty straightforward. Just find all the times that he lies. This guy's a propagandist. That's like all he does. So since they're now stuck under this guy who's not promoting war with Pete Hegseth, literally like writing poetry about how he can't wait for more bloodshed, how the dripping of blood from the skies over Iran, the way that Pete Hegseth is talking, they had to shift. So the narrative has to shift from how this Nobel Peace Prizing deserving president doesn't start new wars. In fact, he ends 12 to 15 to 20 of them. He just makes shit up. So now people like Jim Jordan, we just saw what Donald Trump campaigned on. We just saw it. And Jim Jordan's job is to tell us that, you know, that's not what we saw.
When people step back and evaluate it, they say this was the right decision. This was consistent with what the president told the American people when we, the people, elected him. He said he was going to do this and make sure it didn't happen. And again, I think Americans are willing to, you know, accept this and support this strongly because it just makes good common sense.
See the jacket. No, where's the jacket? You got it. Is he right next to him, or do you leave it back in an office?
These are
or?
great minds. He's been doing. How long? You've never worn. We never worn one on Squawk Box, and he never wears one. You have to on the floor, though, don't you, Congressman? When you go on the floor, you have to wear one.
Didn't they say?
So people have to step back and evaluate this whole thing. And what they'll figure out is that apparently there's this new reality that you're supposed to believe, like some propagandists, that suddenly this is everything that people voted for. They voted for this. It wasn't really a war, but it was a war for the past 47 years, and Donald Trump is ending it by killing children. It's weird. It's weird how it works. So there's that level of it. This MAGA Republican Party is in shambles because that's what they're pushing on one end from Jim Jordan, and from the other end back to John Kennedy, who nailed Kristi Noem. He's kind of back and forth, but at least here he's back on Team MAGA. This is the talking point also for now that we've invaded, which I'm sure none of them would hope would happen because it'd make them all look bad. But now you have to go full on George W. Bush. Listen to this. This is crazy.
And the Democratic leader in the House, the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, says we're going to lose. Reaction to that?
He's wrong. He's wrong. We've already won. We will eventually leave Iran after having destroyed their renewed efforts to develop a nuclear weapon, after having destroyed their missile arsenal, after having destroyed their missile launches, after having destroyed their navy, and the good people of Persia will now have an opportunity to pick their own leadership. Hakeem is wrong.
Senator Kennedy, I wish I had at times your brain. May he?
No, you don't. No, you don't, bro. I wish at times I had your brain because I'm curious what the feeling of mush swimming around in my head feels like. But John Kennedy's point is we've already won. We've already won this war. We went in like a few days ago and we've already won. Well, why the fuck are you still in there if you've already won? I feel like it just might be a talking point.
They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
They have to give up their long-range ballistic missiles. They cannot continue to sponsor terrorism all over the world, as what many administrations have put up with as the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. And they can't have these naval capabilities that can instantly shut off 20% of the world's energy supply. Those are the objectives, and God bless our United States military that are achieving those objectives right now as we speak. Like you said, in many ways, we've already won. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Laura Ingraham also had a chyron, a graphic saying we've already won. I feel like it maybe it's a memo that went around that said, make sure that you push the propaganda and tell these idiots that are watching your network that we've already won, so that no matter how many dead bodies they see come back, no matter how many reports of innocent civilians that we've bombed, as Pete Hegseth literally celebrates those things happen, no matter how much you see it, just tell them we've already won. 5 to 6 to 10-year-old children in Iran, who cares? We've already won. Did you know that they're going to be terrorists one day? Matter of fact, they apparently carry, bombing vests around already at 7 years old. That's the propaganda part. So since this is happening in this direction and they can't escape what will happen in this war, which is people dying, and I guess even to the degree of American soldiers, which they really don't want to have to deal with, dying, they've gone this route. Here's the back end of this whole thing. Did you guys remember this way Pete Hegseth, in between moments of talking about how much he wants to see more blood spilling in the streets, running in the streets of Iran? He was upset about any reporting about the realities of this war that apparently they didn't realize would result in, death.
This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality. The terms of this war will be set by us at every step.
They're just trying to make Donald Trump look bad. Why are you guys talking about like dead Americans or something? That's crazy. Like, were you guys anti-American or something? We're supposed to cover up everything that Donald Trump does. That's what their job is. That's what Pete Hegseth does. So he expects the media to do the same thing. This is where more things are getting worse for this administration, because the part of the frustration of people with all this Trump derangement syndrome for the past 10 years has been the cover-up from the media to not be too mean to these guys, to make sure that you're super polite to liars who are blatantly tossing middle fingers at the American people's faces. And from all of the liberal networks, from MS Now to CNN to anybody else that they claim has been coming after them, CBS, ABC, all of the normal broadcast networks in their news, they've been coming after them and they've been afraid to push back. But for some reason, on these declarations from Pete Hegseth about how he's angry that anyone's reporting on dead Americans, people like Jake Tapper, they're finally fed up. He responded.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth this morning suggested that the news media only prominently covers American service members killed in action for political reasons, to make the president look bad. That's just false, not to mention a kind of warped way of looking at the world, not to mention a rather ahistorical way of looking at the world. The news media covers fallen service members because they have made the greatest sacrifice for this country. It's a tribute. It's an honor. We did it under President Biden.
Take a look at the humanity in this photograph. One human fortunate enough to have been born in the United States, holding a baby who wasn't as lucky. In one instant on Thursday, that love was destroyed by pure evil, by the pure evil of a terrorist attack, and Sergeant G was killed along with 170 Afghans and 12 other U.S. service members.
We did it under President Obama. Here's a clip from when I was the White House correspondent for ABC News.
Michael Weston, a graduate of Stanford and Harvard Law. Chad Michael, a former SWAT team member from Tampa. And Forrest Lehman, who was due home in January just in time for the birth of his first child.
These are the very simple things that these networks could have always done. Every time they lie about it or talk about fake news is the first thing Donald Trump and his propaganda machine started pushing. They kept accepting it. And, so I guess now they're finally fed up. I'm not sure what it was that tilted, their anger and finally made them decide to stop following behind them and bowing their heads and being afraid of saying, you guys are lying. They wouldn't even say the word lie. I enjoyed the rest of what Jake Tapper did to dispute these lies that Pete Hegseth was telling.
In fact, it was this desire to honor fallen service members and the desire of living veterans to have their fallen brothers and sisters so memorialized, so honored, that led me to write a book called The Outpost, which was published in 2012.
And they wanted their stories told. They wanted their 8 fallen brothers memorialized. They wanted someone to tell their story. They felt like they had suffered through the deadliest, bloodiest day for U.S. troops in 2009, and nobody back here knew about it, and nobody back here cared. So the fact that I called, they were fairly hospitable to.
All of that under Biden and Obama, there is nothing political about it. There's no score settling about it. There's no attempt to make anybody look bad. It's about honoring fallen service members. The difference with Obama and Biden is their defense secretaries didn't come out and start petulantly complaining about us honoring the fallen.
He even used the word petulantly. They would never say anything disparaging about the people in power because they want enough access. But considering the access that they're giving them is to try and, disparage them, lambast them, and discredit them, this being the media, the very fealty version of the media that we keep seeing, he's now coming in guns blazing. He even tapped into this whole mindset about the reason why they even report on these fallen soldiers. He went to the emotional level of it. And once you do that, it's hard for these folks to get angry, scream, and say, how dare you talk about the emotional toll taken on the families of fallen soldiers? The lies that we've been always telling about how we give a damn about the families of soldiers. We've always known that they don't give a damn about it, but they talk so much. Pete Hegseth yells so much. Donald Trump is angry so much. They think they can just keep getting away with it. So it stretched all the way into Caroline Leavitt. Caroline Leavitt was asked specifically about Pete Hegseth and his hatred towards anybody reporting about the reality of what war is.
Given what Secretary Hegseth said this morning, is it the position of this administration that the press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration that the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury and the damage it is doing to the rogue Iranian regime that has threatened the lives of every single American in this room. If the Iranian regime had their choice, they would kill every single person in this room. And so we can all be very grateful that we have an administration and that we have men and women in our armed forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room and for every American across the country and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these.
Secretary Hegseth was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the secretary meant. And you know it. You know you are being disingenuous. There is not. We've never had a Secretary of Defense who cares more.
Get through or tragic things happen. It's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad.
Yeah,
As you know, we cover the deaths of U.S. service members under every president.
The press does only want to make the president look bad. That's a fact, especially you.
It gets bad, man. When you're cornered like this, and when you have when the other folks like Caitlin Collins there has the reality of what we are all seeing in front of our faces on their side, there's no winning that argument. All you have left is, I don't like you. You know what? It's a perfect fact that you guys are coming after President Trump. And then she reads the quote that she denied Pete Hegseth said. How are you going to deny what we all saw? Do you think that we're not going to have, that no one is prepared to show you what it is that we're talking about? Then it goes right back to, well, it's just like you guys have Trump arrangements and you hate it. I think the other part about what she was trying to do was trying to convince people by these fear tactics about, you know what, because you guys hate Trump so much, all these Iranians can come in and kill every American if they could. What kind of argument is that? These children who are running the country are bloodthirsty and they're stupid. Let me wrap with this. I'm almost done. is the back end after Caitlin Collins embarrassed Caroline Leavitt with, reality. What we just saw 2 days ago, Pete Hegseth saying that she denied was said. She went ahead and finished her off. But the anger coming from Caroline Leavitt, I think, is the most poignant thing here. This is what people are recognizing and noticing. Even if you hate CNN and MS Now and ABC, CBS, and NBC, if you hate them all, if you listen to Caroline Leavitt, how could you possibly be on this person's side?
No, listen to me, especially you and especially CNN. And the Secretary of Defense cares deeply about our war fighters and our men and women in uniform. He travels all across this country to meet with them, to connect with them, and your network has hardly ever probably reported on that. You also had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chairman Kane, who's a brave patriot, standing alongside the secretary at the Pentagon this morning, again expressing his condolences to these families. And I just told you that the President of the United States will be attending their dignified transfer. So please,
That's not making the president look bad. That's showcasing that.
We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make.
If you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well.
The press briefing room suddenly has reporters screaming at her lies and these accusations about them. It's not looking good, man. So she started with Pete Hegseth didn't say that, and she ended with well, actually, you guys suck. Nobody wants to be on that side. I mean, the more stupid people do, but they don't, they're going to always be on. We'll have that certain percentage of the country still. These guys are digging holes and, burying themselves and then rolling the dirt right back on top of them. That's why they're going to get more violent. That's why they're going to get more authoritarian, because the arguments just aren't happening. They're not working anymore. It's not happening. Neither is this stream. Man, I went over by 15 minutes. I'm glad you guys hung around. Those of you that did, go ahead, catch up with John over there on TDR. Glad you guys were here. We got Friday on tap. That doesn't mean we'll be drinking. Maybe you will be. I can't. I'll make sure I take care of that later on Friday evening. But join me again tomorrow at noon Eastern. We got another hour long on this watch party stream. We'll be doing this again. So get your drinks ready. I'll find my energy drink, something different. I'm going to try. We'll see. As usual, all these stories are going to be up on the page later. Come check those out. Share those. Subscribe. Check them out yourself. I think it's good times. We'll see you guys later. Happy Thursday. We'll see you for a Friday. See you later, Mom.